Hi everybody, I want to talk about near-death experiences for just a moment. It's going to be a short video. So I want to first pose the question to you. Why is it that the majority of people that have a brush with death, who were clinically dead for a short period of time and brought back, do not have a near-death experience? These experiences are only reported by a very small, I think the figure that I've seen, and this is some years ago, was under 10%. So let's just say it's 15% for the sake of argument, because not everybody that has these experiences has a place to report them. So it isn't like you die in a hospital and they bring you back and then someone comes and interviews you to ask you if you've had an NDE. It doesn't happen. You can report it, but you can say it to the nurse or doctor, I had one, but they don't report these things. So who do you tell? There's no way to come up with any type of statistical average unless you're conducting a study that I haven't seen, and they could be out there. So let's say it's between 5 and 15% of people who die actually have a near-death experience. And some people have a partial near-death experience that isn't exactly a full-blown one, but it is evidence of something. So, but why is that? Why is it only a small percentage? Okay, so the reason for that is because we live in a transdimensional AI planetary consciousness simulation. And I'm going to get into that in more videos, but if you've seen the previous one, you'll have a good idea of what I'm talking about. So in the simulation, it's a prison of perception. And there's narratives involved in this perception. I mean, in this containment system, there's narratives. So one of the narratives is the false light narrative, to go into the light and you'll be with God, you'll be with your loved ones. So the system is not going to waste energy. It's going to give this experience to people who are going to turn around and relay it to somebody else. So it's going to be people with charisma, with creativity, people who are brave and willing to talk about things that others don't believe in. So they're willing to stick their neck out. They're willing to make a stand. And these are brave people, obviously. So these are the people that you hear from, not because they were in a study, not because they told the doctor or the nurse at the hospital or the EMTs that took him to the hospital after they revived them that I had an experience. These are the people that go out and talk about it. They write a book. They may do speaking engagements. They'll do podcasts. They make their voices heard because they want other people to know that God is real, or these experiences are real, there's life after death. However they interpreted the experience, they want to get the word out. There are some people that have these experiences that never go public, but you do run into them occasionally if you look for them. And I've had the I would say the honor to talk to two of these people. One was in a camping environment, and the other one was in a hospital setting. So we had a conversation about a suicide attempt, and then another guy who was at a campground. He had a near-death experience where he had a near heart attack. So I took those into consideration. Now, they were partial near-death experiences, and I've read books and I've watched plenty of programs on the subject. So out of that, I could discern that there was something strange going on here. And it was only the people that were willing to talk about it, or those who were willing to share it with others, a certain type of person that would remember this. Now, it should be everybody. I think everyone can agree. If everybody dies and everybody has a soul, then everyone should have a near-death experience. Everyone should be owed a near-death experience. Because if we come back, wouldn't it be God's will that if we came back and we were all suffering under this strange amnesia, that God would want us? Well, first off, God wouldn't want us to forget, and two, if that was the plan, if that was if there was some special reason for that, which makes absolutely no sense, but if there was, then everyone should have a near-death experience, not just those who were charismatic enough to talk about it. So that's done for social engineering purposes and for and to reduce energy and effort, because you don't want to give people near-death experiences that aren't going to use it to preserve the continuity of the system. So the idea is for those people that have these experiences to talk about them and influence the rest of the public. That way they keep the belief in the afterlife alive, and they give people a bit of, I would say, naive comfort, because they're told when you die, it's your duty to go into the light. That's where God is. That's where your loved ones are. So it's to reinforce the soul trap. Okay, now, second question, why are the near-death experiences always catered to the belief system of the person? It's the same reason as the first reason. The reason that it's catered to the belief system of the person is because it's a soul trap. It's designed to lure you in. And once it gets you and it gets consent, because that's what you call the engineering of consent. When you experience loved ones, people that passed away, friends, wherever it is, you're going to feel comfort. You may see Jesus or another religious figure in the tunnel of light. Whatever you believe you're going to see is what you're going to see. It's there to comfort you, to get you in, to get you close enough to consent to go all the way, at which point it's like a tractor beam. It just pulls you in. And that's when consent ends, unless you can form coherence again and will yourself out of there, because they can't force you to do anything. They need your consent. And there's a reason for that, and I'll get to that in future videos. But to wrap this up, people are catered to match their belief system so that the experience is palatable, because it's a trap. That's bait. Second, only a small number of people are allowed to remember their near-death experiences because it's for saving energy, conservation of energy, but also they don't want to waste time on people who won't share the experience. So it's given to certain people. Now, that does another thing that I guess I should bring up, is that it creates influencers. So the people that go out and tell you about their near-death experience become influencers. Some people do it as a profession. They may have a spiritual awakening tied to their NDE, which then causes them to go out and they talk to spirit guides and they do all of these things. Now, often a traumatic experience like that can trigger a spiritual soul awakening. This is when the oversoul tether strengthens or even reattaches, but it comes active and the person is now connected to their higher self or oversoul, and their intuition starts to work and they have a spiritual awakening, at which point the mimic field, which is something we'll talk about in another video, but this is the forces of deception, the spiritual ones, the ones that affect your cognitive day-to-day activities and your mood and everything else. This is where the spiritual attacks and influences come from. It's an AI system that is hitting you with different things, and it's also connected to the military-industrial complex, because there's another more earthbound layer to that, or 3D layer to that, that involves programs, that involves remote mind control, directed energy weapon systems, scalar fields, things like that. So, but anyway, these people then become influencers. So what happens is a lot of them get hijacked. Not all, but a lot of them get hijacked. And even the ones that aren't hijacked are still influenced. They're still, it's like a tug of war. They're trying to pull these people in the direction of reinforcing the deceptive belief systems that keep us in the planetary simulation and keep us going into the soul traps after death. Anyway, I just wanted to leave you with that. It's about social engineering. It's about the creation of influencers and these people are profiled beforehand. Some are just passive influencers. Some are more direct influencers who write books, do podcasts, do documentaries. They may do a conglomeration of things, but they have an impact on the general psyche of the population. Each country, each language sector of the world has their own influencers anyway. So keep that in mind, and I'll take care, and I'll talk to you soon. Hope to see you in the next podcast. And by the way, if you haven't subscribed, click subscribe and pass this around. Get these videos out, share it with people, because it's the only way that other people are going to hear this information. I'm not promoted by the algorithms, and I never will be, no matter how big this gets or how small it stays. Anyway, take care.